Before Stardew Valley was even a thought, the Harvest Moon series provided hours of farming/dating fun for gamers, and it is without a doubt that one particular setting and cast of characters reigns to this day as the optimal Harvest Moon experience. That setting is Flower Bud Village, first brought to light in Harvest Moon 64 and simultaneously replicated on the PlayStation in Harvest Moon Back to Nature. Later on, the same cast was revived on the Game Boy Advance in the fan-favorite Harvest Moon Friends of Mineral Town. It is debatable which of these three games is the best, but none of them have ever been considered for a remaster. Instead, Natsume continued to forge ahead with the series, and the results have been mostly mediocre ever since. Stardew Valley successfully revived the fun of these classics and even added more, but for longtime fans who grew up in Flower Bud Village, there's still an unfulfilled desire to return to where it all started, but with modern-day improvements. Harvest Moon 64 is probably the perfect example of a game that deserves a second look, and the Nintendo Switch is the ideal platform for such a remaster. But why bother, and what changes would we expect? Harvest Moon 64 has a beautiful isometric camera filled with charming little Duplo-looking figures, and really that's the whole answer to the question, why bother? The game is chock full of charm, and reviving it, although unnecessary, would be amazing fan service and a very wise move for the series that is rapidly declining in popularity these days. Stardew Valley is insanely popular, and I'm not sure gamers today are aware that Harvest Moon 64 has all but a select few things that Stardew Valley has on offer. However, the game is also infamous for many grammatical errors and faulty programming, but with the proper attention and a dash of modern spices, the game could easily shine and rival Stardew Valley. So, let's start by addressing the immediate problems and necessary changes it needs. First, the clock and the length of the days and the months. Harvest Moon 64's clock is only visible when paused, but the bigger problem is how fast the days go by. Every day starts at 6 a.m., but every 10 seconds or so in real time is a full hour in game time. You have just enough time to water about 3 plots of crops, forage very quickly in the mountains, and maybe visit one more screen to give some villagers some gifts before 5 p.m. sets and the buyer comes and empties your shipping bin. It is impossible to visit every villager, water all of your crops, care for all of your animals, explore the mountains, and ship all you want to sell for that day. There is also no point in staying awake after night falls except to visit the bar. Everything else is locked, the villagers are gone, and you suffer a penalty in energy if you continue working. Finally, although the days pass very quickly, each season is 30 days long, and that's just a few days too many. Due to the lack of crafting, mining, and battling that Stardew Valley has, the repetition starts to nag at you halfway through the month in Harvest Moon 64. The fix for all of these issues combined is to put the clock on screen at all times, lengthen the days substantially, shorten the months, and shorten the days required for each crop to grow, as well as bump up the birthdays and festivals. It is essentially padding out and balancing the fun by removing all the excess time. The second major change that must be implemented is a complete overhaul in the fishing. You get one rod, hold the B button, and just wait. If you're lucky, the bobber will gyrate for 2 seconds and you must rapidly let go of the button to catch either a small fish, a regular fish, or a big fish. But sometimes nothing bites at all, and when combined with how fast the days pass, you can waste the entire day in front of one little pond and catch absolutely nothing. Implementing either Stardew Valley's mechanics or Animal Crossing's take on fishing would prove much more effective. And of course, for that dash of modern spice, adding more fish and purpose to fishing would be nice. The third major change necessary is the inventory. Harvest Moon 64 is going back to 1999, where inventory screens always required pausing the game with no quick access option. You can only hold 8 crops and other forageables in your rucksack, and in order to grab anything out of it, you had to pause the game, which surprisingly takes a little over 1 second to even come up on the screen. Everything is select one at a time, unpause the game, pause it again, select one more. Yeah, the whole process needs to be streamlined in the way Stardew Valley has it, with a row of everything that stacks like items into one slot. The fourth major change needed is the ability to cook. Back to Nature and Friends of Mineral Town had this feature, but sadly Harvest Moon 64 let us down on this front. Every recipe you obtain simply goes on a list in your kitchen once you obtain it, but you cannot cook them. Even with ingredients stored in the fridge, the stove is just decoration. This is one oversight that always bothered me, even as a kid. A small cooking animation and the ability to cook these recipes for stat-boosting effects or even just special gifts for the villagers would be awesome. That's really all that needs to change to make the game better. It has everything else. You can save lumber and money to expand your house, attend monthly festivals, marry one of 5 highly memorable bachelorettes, Upgrade your tools through repetitive use, train your dog and horse to win races, pray to spirits to unlock special events, and more. The only noticeable missing pieces when compared to Stardew Valley are the combat system, crafting of small things like sprinklers and treasure chests, and the depth of the mines. Harvest Moon 64 does feature a mine, but it is only accessible in the winter month, and you merely just hoe the ground for minerals that serve no purpose other than to sell. There aren't nearly as many crops and items either, because once again we are talking about the N64's memory here compared to modern day. So what if they made all of those fixes and then added a combat system and other incentives to keep up with the times? What if they added the small crafting and more crops and items? Essentially it would be Stardew Valley, but in the lovable world of Harvest Moon. One could say, what's the point? Harvest Moon is dead, we have Stardew Valley now. But what about Dancing with Karen? Or Potpourri always watering the sidewalk? Or the horse races, cheering on your dog in the winter? Those adorable cow faces? Michael Jackson selling nuts? There's so much unique charm in this game that I would argue surpasses Stardew Valley, and it is only held back by its dated mechanics. Perhaps I'm the only one in the world who wants to see this game remastered, but given the diversity of the Nintendo Switch and the success of indie games on the platform, and Stardew Valley standing as proof that the farming/dating sim formula hasn't lost its appeal, I think Natsume would benefit from reviving and fine-tuning this classic. But what do you guys think? Feel free to discuss it below, and take care.